Hi Faisal, my name is Eric Nicholson around Astute Realty LLC, and Faisal here is joining my podcast. He has a company called Pinpoint Skip, and he is doing an amazing job. He's actually finding what we all as investors need when we need to talk to prospects. He's finding the prospects, he's getting the right data and right, we call it lead, but it's actually prospect list that you can use to contact the prospects and find out if they're interested in selling. So Faisal, I want you to just briefly introduce yourself and we will move on to discussing the topics.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Eric. First off, I'm glad you differentiated between a lead and like a record or a prospect because I think in this business it gets thrown around a lot that people have these like leads, and when somebody hears lead they automatically think it's warm. But what we sell is we sell like potentially motivated sellers. So it's distressed properties, distressed sellers, and then it's up to my clients to then reach out to them, build a rapport, and get them to sell the property. So that's out of the way. So yeah, I'm a real estate investor. I used to be a data analyst, and when I was first getting in investing in real estate, building a wholesaling business, I realized that everyone was doing the same thing. We were all pulling lists from List Source, PropStream, and batch leads, and I just wasn't satisfied with the results that I was getting. I felt like I was wasting a lot of money, and so because I'm a data analyst and my mind is weird, I've been able to source my own data and come up with my own lists. And once I started finding success with those lists, I started selling it to friends of mine, my masterminds. And then once I were able to get deals from it too, that's when I started Pinpoint Skip. So I'm based out of Maryland. As far as like my real estate investing goes, I'm still active in this business, but for the most part, Pinpoint Skip, we're a nationwide company and we help real estate investors and realtors nationwide. So yeah, that's pretty much my story.
Good. So yes, it's a good point there. I know that sometimes there is a confusion. People mix up the terms. So if somebody wants to get a lead, they can pay per lead and buy it from companies that sell them for, I don't want to say ridiculously high because I respect what they're doing and I think it's worth their while to deliver
Same.
that certain price. But I think it's like $400, $500 per lead, and it requires certain budget in order to buy a lot of them. So you would be on you would figure your statistical average of the closed deals and all that. But those are the leads, or you can do the PPCs on Google Ads, or you can do pretty much anything else for inbound connection. But we're talking about prospects because I think one of the cost efficient methods, and it's proven to work. Some people will say, no, it's not work, it's dead. No, it's still working. If you have a good list, well skip traced list, and its current list, and you call each one of them, and if you have like 10-15% contact rate, you can realistically get maybe 1 or 3 leads a day if you are using the dialer and just dial 4 hours straight every single day. And out of those, I don't know, out of those 1 to 3 leads, you will accumulate anywhere between 20 to 60 a month, right? Depending on how lucky you are.
Right.
And every 50 of those leads is actually a deal, right? So there you have your KPI, your basic numbers. And then if you succeed in doing that, the cost of doing that is relatively low to any other type of marketing that you could possibly do, right? You could have a VA working for you and you could pay them, I don't know, $500 a month to do that, right? To close that one deal. That doesn't compare anywhere to like PPC where you get like each lead is charged at 550 and you don't know if you're going to buy 10, 20 and you close any deal. Some people are lucky they do, but others are not. So I think in that context, the prospect being what it is, and we all, understand what it is. I will say as a wholesaler, my biggest frustration with the list, if I pull any, is that number one, it's outdated. So nothing is more frustrating than wasting hours of your or your VA's time hitting up the people who have already sold their houses, right?
Correct.
Because the source did not update their system in the past 6, 8, 10 months. The property has changed hands, but you are not aware of that. So you are wasting your time, not only on that, but you also waste the time on not just your VA, but you also waste time on skip tracing that number that you shouldn't have. And if you are talking about a list of 10,000 and you have a tier 1 skip tracing and you pay 10 cents a piece, it's $1,000 right there. And if half of them are outdated, that's $500 thrown out the window. And I think very important piece that I figured that's very important to make your cold calling operation successful is getting that accurate current list, not current list, and as accurate as possible skip tracing. So when you dial the numbers, you're not calling some dead ends. So I think you touched on those two briefly, and I wanted you to elaborate on that because that's where main focus is as wholesalers, investors who want to contact the prospects. And I want to know a little bit more about how you figure the ways or how you deliver that result that we are looking for.
Sure. So here's so many things, that you said that I was, wanted to talk about. So first off, to answer your question, we update our lists bi-weekly and monthly, depending on the source. Obviously, if someone is an absentee owner, we're not going to update that bi-weekly, but vacants, pre-foreclosure, stuff like that, we do. So what actually motivated me to start this company was I pulled a list from PropStream of vacants in Baltimore County. This was 2021, and I got a list. It was like 4,000 or 5,000 records. And once I actually found a good data provider, it was only like 400 or 500. And what I found out later on was they're only updating their lists every 6 months. So we all get our list from the Postal Service. That's no secret, but it's just a matter of like how often it's updated. And so once I realized that, I realized how much money that I was throwing away. So that pissed me off enough to make me want to start sourcing my own data because I hate throwing money away. And so as a benefit of being our client, they get the benefit of knowing that they're not just wasting their money. To go back to talking about PPL and those KPIs, I don't know enough about PPC to talk about it, but with PPL, when because I tested out for a little bit too, you're right, it was anywhere between, I think it was 275 to up to 600 in competitive markets per lead. And the average is about 1 in every 13 leads will close a deal. And so you're looking at anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000 cost per contract. With cold calling, at least here in Maryland, for our business, is anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500 cost per contract. However, the biggest difference is lead time, or from the time that the lead comes into your system to the time you close it. Cold calling, texting, usually those take a little bit longer because you're the one reaching out to them. And while they may be motivated to sell, a lot of times you're hitting them early on in their motivation. So it may take anywhere from 60 days to 9 months, but it's just all about the follow-up. Whereas with PPL, these people are going to a website, they're searching, how do I sell my house fast for cash? And they're seeking how to sell it immediately because there's some kind of pain point that needs to be addressed now. So that's the biggest difference. With PPL, it's a lot quicker. It just costs a lot more money. So that's, what I typically, advise clients. If they have the budget for it, go ahead and do PPL, but make sure that you have some kind of other marketing stream to go along with it to keep your cost per contract low. Because if you're in a market like Baltimore City, where the average wholesale fee is anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000, if you're spending $7,000 on a contract, you have to make sure that you're at least doubling your money, or it's not worth it.
Yes. By the way, a lot of the people who think about wholesalers going out there and making a killing and taking advantage of sellers, a lot of the people who say that, they just don't know the numbers. They don't know what the investor is going to pay for it, number one, because investor is not going to pay and purchase and fix and flip the property if they're going to do it at a loss. Yep. They have the hard money costs, they have the resale costs, they have to close it twice. And then on top of that, the wholesaler is not some kind of a charity organization or a volunteer organization or a Boy Scout to go out and help people. We are actually not in service of helping people. We are principals interested in acquiring the property as investors. The byproduct of that is that we end up helping people in very difficult situations who are facing the dilemma either to sell the property now and get some cash out of that and get out of the situation, or do nothing and wait until state confiscates your property, tax auctions it off in a tax auction, and just get nothing out of it, or whatever proceeds you might hope to get. So there is this cost involved in wholesaling that people have to also remember, that if you are making $10,000 assignment, that's not your profit. If your cost of acquiring that deal was $7,500, you only netted $2,500 on that one assignment. That may have cost you endless calls, endless inspections and conversations, negotiations and all that. So factoring all that in, I think, yeah, you said $2,600 is what your cost per deal is, which also sounds realistic. I think there is one part of it is putting a cold caller on a mission, basically, and the cost will vary depending on how well trained and where the caller is based. I think a US based caller will charge you more. Somebody based in Philippines will be cheaper, but then how well trained they are you hiring the agency? All those things add up to costs. And then also the cost of the list itself, like the prospects, right? I have to buy a list of 10,000 prospects. I have to pay for them. They're not free. And some providers will sell at 10, 15 cents a lead, skip tracing included. Others will only allow me to pull the list and I will have to take it somewhere else to skip trace. But all that being said, and after all being said and done, I think $2,500, $2,600 per deal is still much better number than $7,500 per deal.
Agreed.
And I think why I am bringing you to this podcast and discussing this with you is that I believe a lot, especially people who just started the wholesaling or just started cold calling. A lot of people who give up, who think that it's not working solely because they have bad data. They just don't have good data, so the numbers are wrong. If they put them on a dialer, a lot of the numbers are not ever answered or are wrong numbers. And the data itself is outdated, so once they have a chance to speak with someone, that person says, oh, I'm a new owner or I'm a previous owner, I sold that property. And all that just adds up to frustration. You just throw the money out without the results. So I'm glad that you said you want to talk about other things that I have mentioned, and I want to give you that opportunity to do that now. Feel free to, because we as a community of investors, first of all, we need your help in getting the data that is accurate, that is updated, so we can utilize it and increase our KPI. And number two, whatever feedback you give us, whatever you tell us, we will just be happy to hear, because that's our crucial point. I mean, if you have an efficient system and it costs you $2,500 to close a deal, think of it this way: it might cost you $25,000 to close the same deal if you have bad data and bad skip tracing. So with that, I will pass on to you the mic and let you expound on those other topics that I may have mentioned briefly, and maybe you want to explore and give a more detailed feedback on.
Yeah, so the issue with data, or I guess like the hard part that like I have with building a data company, is like data is so like it's highly commoditized, right? Like there's so many different data companies out there. There's ones now that are giving data away for free. They just want that like monthly like subscription service that they're running. The thing that you have to think about when you're either paying like a couple cents or you're not paying for the data, hey, think of every other wholesaler that's just getting into the game, that doesn't have any money, that is pulling all these lists and then calling from their cell phone number. That's your competition. Not only that, but think of the quality of the data, right? So sure, like if you're getting data for free or for 1, 2, 3, 4 cents, whatever it is, the quality isn't going to be that great. So if you value your time, you're going to want accurate data. And so if you have to call like 20 numbers before you actually get in touch with like the right person, that's such a waste of your time. So what I tell people is like value your time, get good data, and either hire it out, or if you're going to call them at first, just make sure that you either use like a Google Voice number or like Mojo or Call Tools, something cheap, and just time block every day so to make sure that like you're the one, like you're holding yourself accountable, right? Because like in this business, it's just you're just running a lead gen company. And as soon as you get a property under contract, that's all you're focusing on, and you're trying to find a buyer. Well, once you go to settlement or the contract falls out, you've then lost all this time that you could be lead genning. So I tell people like to outsource that part, get a cold caller or VA for cheap, and have them call on your behalf. And then as soon as someone raises their hand or says that they're interested in selling their property, then they pass it on to you, and that's where your time is best spent, selling to or talking to actual people who are interested in selling their house. And then eventually your goal should be to remove yourself from that seat too. So that's pretty much like my biggest piece of advice to people, was like just do all the legwork at first. Like think of time and money as a sliding scale, right? So like at the beginning you have a lot more time than money, and then as you start getting more deals, you start buying your time back, and hopefully in a year or two you're not doing any of the work and you have a bunch of people working for you that are getting you deals, and It could be like me where you don't even know what you have under contract. So
Absolutely, man.
it's
Absolutely. By the way,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a tough business. So like I don't want to make it sound like it's like super easy. Like it's definitely like a grind and grunt work, but like I promise you it's worth it.
Well, in that regard, I think a lot of the people, because I see a lot of the people become wholesalers, and then 6 months later you can't find them. You don't know where they
Yep.
are. I think part of the reason is that they have high expectations. Maybe they go to blogs, maybe they go to seminars, and once somebody has done something repeatedly and succeeded, they can tell you how they did it, and it sounds so easy. But when you actually start executing things, you find out that nothing is easy.
Yep.
The simple things can hinder you. Like you may want to do something, I don't know, you want to do text messaging. All of a sudden you find out that there are TCPA restrictions and you can't do that just like that. And
Hmm.
or you want to do, you want anything that you can possibly imagine that you have to do on your day-to-day business. When you actually start executing it and you are doing it for the first time in your life, you will inevitably hit the bumps until you do it a couple of times and it's like, okay, I know how to handle it. And I guess a lot of the people have that expectation that if they simply buy a list and start calling today, tomorrow they will have a deal, day after tomorrow another, and it's just going to go like a smooth ride. It's not, and you may actually spend the first 2 3 months without any deals, spending all your time. Do you have the stamina and willpower to do that and keep persisting? But persistence is where the winning is. Because the people like, okay, there is a battlefield and the shots are fired. Some guys will just drop and run, but others will just stay and press on. And if you have that ability to withstand that charge or that adverse circumstance and still have willpower to move on, I don't guarantee that you will win. But if there are winners, all of them have passed through that stage, and that's how they got to that stage actually.
Yeah,
So
that's solid advice. So like I think the biggest issue is like social media. You have like these people who portray, all this money that they're getting and that they're getting it through wholesaling and that you can get into wholesaling for free and then they become coaches and it's not the reality of this business. This business is you don't see all the hard work that those people
mhm.
had to go through to get to where they are, but you just see the end result. And so you think, okay, well, you know what, this guy can do it, so can I. But you didn't see all the dark times that person went through in order to get to where they are.
Right.
So it's tough, but and it's such a low barrier to entry in this business that like anybody can get into it, anybody can do it. Not everyone will succeed because of the fact that, it is tough. You're gonna have to get your teeth kicked in a bunch before like you actually find success. And once you find success, you're still gonna get your teeth kicked in order to like maintain that success. So it's not easy, it's just the consistency is really going to be like the separator. So like if you can consistently market and consistently make offers, then you'll increase your chances of winning.
I totally agree. And I think one of the things, like, I like to be honest with people.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want? Do you want me to be nice and tell you a fairy tale, or be real and tell you the truth? The truth, whatever it is, it's not there to scare you or to intimidate you. It's actually to make you stronger, to make you, prepared for the challenges. Like if I'm going to have period of a tough period where I will be tested, I would rather know about that and be prepared fully, wear all my gear and everything, than to go there in the cold Arctic with my t-shirt expecting sunny weather. That will
Agreed.
just kill me. So I would rather be prepared. And that's, I think, is very valuable to tell people. And once you prepare, if you have that mindset, stamina, and persistence and consistency, then I would say it's under your control. I mean, whatever you accomplish, it's under your control. And a lot of times you will just set your own limits as to how much you want to put into it and how much you want to get out of it. But those are all very valuable advices. Now, in terms of the product that you are offering, helping us to kind of nail down and get those prospects that might be interested in selling. Do you just provide the list alone, or do you skip trace with the phone numbers? And if you do, is it like a tier one skip tracing or not? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we provide the lists and the skip tracing, or if someone has their own list, they can skip trace it through us at pinpointskip.com. So it's tier two data, and it's doesn't provide email addresses. I can get tier one for 15 cents a record, but ours is 12 cents a record. And the reason I went with that lower tier is because I've never been able to get a deal by cold emailing someone. And once I saw the accuracy rate between tier one and tier two, so tier one data is quote unquote up to 95% accurate, whereas tier two data is up to 90% accurate. And so when I looked at the delta between them, I realized that the biggest difference was that tier one data just provides more phone numbers. And that's all it is. Like, so we provide the same phone numbers that tier one does, but we have a cutoff at I think it's 10 phone numbers, whereas tier one will provide sometimes up to 20 phone numbers. And what I like about tier one data is if you're trying to locate LLCs and stuff like that, that's the way to go. And I'm fully transparent with my clients. Like, hey, if you pull a list from somewhere, it's a bunch of LLCs, like send it my way and we'll skip trace it through our other provider. But through the website, it's mainly non-LLCs because those have the highest accuracy rate of being able to like get in touch with the actual owner itself. And what I found with LLCs is that those are typically more sophisticated investors, so you're going to have a harder time getting deals from them. Even our cash buyers list, like we provide non-LLC cash buyers because those are the people that are typically newer and that are typically more likely to overpay for a deal or pay, like maybe not overpay, but like pay towards the top of the market. Whereas like, you know, someone who's running a business for a while, they may not necessarily like pay top dollar because of the fact that they have a bunch of deals coming their way.
How did you say you filter out those buyers that are relatively new to the game?
LLCs and non-LLCs.
LLCs,
Yep.
non-LLCs. Okay. In my personal experience, I don't intentionally target any LLCs to buy properties from. The only time I get in touch with them is when my information is not accurate because I'm looking for single family homeowner and it's not entity, it's first name, last name. It turns out that I'm actually calling to a landlord of the property and he's having LLC or, you know, he's running a business. I don't target them because I think it's very hard for me to imagine the circumstance that would lead someone sophisticated enough to set up a business, own the properties, but then at the same time be unable to figure out how to avoid the extreme pitfall that they fall into, right? There's some kind of contradiction. Like in order for you to get to point B, you have to possess quality A. And if you have quality A, how do you get yourself to C, which means you don't have that A, right? So that doesn't mean that there are no people like that. I actually know investors who's solely dedicated to targeting the LLCs and doing the multi-unit commercial units and all that. It's just not my cup of tea. I just in my imagination, as I see it, like I can see why somebody would be overwhelmed and find themselves in a terrible situation with their taxes due, everything falling apart. But if you're a businessman, hey man, how did you build your business if you didn't know how to avoid sometimes simple situations? But anyway, you are providing the tier two, not that you provide specifically tier two. You can provide tier one. There is a price difference, which includes up to 25 numbers plus email, and you provide tier two, but you are essentially providing with 10 numbers, and they're 95% accurate or 90% accurate. The difference is just few percentage wise. And that should be good enough if you are targeting a regular homeowner, right?
Correct.
And the only time I would actually go for tier one, which means more phone numbers or more associations or relatives, would be in a probate lead where a couple generations have passed away and there is just no trace of anyone. Even in the state or city, when I do my skip tracing, I can't find anybody, then I would say, okay, this is the time for tier one. But other than that, I think you are on point. If you want to do just cold calling to single family homeowners, tier two could be your friend. You would save on cost, but at the same time, hit the numbers with the high rate of accuracy. Now, I don't want to get deep into the methods or whatever you do to collect the data. What I want to ask you about is the source, not source, but the types of the leads that you provide. So our viewers know exactly what type of properties you are targeting. And I know from my experience, like there are databases, various databases you can pull from postal office, you can pull from, estate search and online from the Maryland estate search, you can pull data from code violation list. It goes county by county. They have different ways to get those. But I want to ask you specifically, like what data you have already figured that you are pulling and you are providing to us.
Yeah, so the two lists that I recommend to my clients are a niche list, which are a bunch of smaller lists combined onto one. It's like pre-foreclosures, vacants, tax delinquents, liens, judgments, bankruptcies, and early probates. Early probates are anyone who has assigned an executor to their estate before they pass away. And then the other one is Motivated AF. It's a compilation of all of our best performing lists. And the reason we created that way is because everyone always asks me, like, what's the best list? Well, we took the guesswork out of it. We looked at all the data, saw where all of our deals came from, and then put them all on one list. And because I'm a data analyst and my mind is weird, I've been able to come up with lists that other providers don't have. So two lists, one is called potential absentee. It's people who own more than one property but don't have forwarding addresses on them. So they look owner occupied. And then we scrub it against the absentee list. So anybody who's targeting absentees aren't targeting these people. It's typically someone who lived in a house, moved to their next house without selling their previous house, thinking that they want to be a landlord, and then they realize that being a landlord of one property sucks. And then the other one that I've come up with is called the no data or missing data list. It's anywhere where there's a null, a void, or a blank in a data point. And the reason that's important is because you have all these gurus out there that are like teaching people to filter on like the square footage, the year built, the last date sold, last price sold amount, and anywhere where one of those data points is missing, it'll automatically filter out that record. So a lot of those records aren't even being touched by other investors. So my main goal for this company was to create lists that others aren't targeting. That way my clients are fishing in different ponds.
Right. And let me ask you, if you target by whether, I don't know how you actually pull them by zip code, city, or state.
Whatever you want. So we can't get as granular as neighborhood, but we can get as granular as zip code. And then when you go to the website, you can put as many zip codes as you want, just separated with commas.
And there is just the one flat rate, right? Whatever it is, like 15 cents or 12 cents per lead.
Yeah, so it's 12 cents a record, and then you can choose the amount of records that you want. So cool thing about the website is, you choose, let's say 10,000 records in Baltimore City, but there's 40,000, let's say. The next time you go to order a list, you upload the list you previously purchased, and we'll scrub out all those records, so you're never paying for the same data twice.
Good. And one other thing I wanted to ask, what is the size of the data? Because as you probably know, if you go to any like PropStream or Deal Machine, whatever, when you just search one zip code, you have like 20,000 houses. But as you start putting your filters in, the data all of a sudden shrinks, sometimes to 0, sometimes to 250. So the list that you are pulling with your criteria, realistically, how many leads can you pull? And I don't know, there is no like unit of zip code that is universal, right? Because each zip code is different. So let's say for a state of Maryland or by county, like what is the number of the leads you can pull in areas where median price is around $450,000 retail wise, and where the population is at around 100,000 people. So what is
give me a. All right, so I actually just pulled up the counties in Maryland. Give me a county in Maryland.
Okay, let's do Hagerstown. The Washington County.
So Washington County, you have a little over 14,000 motivated AF and 446 niche. 446
niche
records.
446.
Yep.
That's pretty small list, actually.
Yep. And then motivated AF is 14,000.
Okay, so that's a huge difference right there. And I wanted to mention one thing. Do you know Jay Moore, right? Do you know Jay? He is doing his wholesaling, I think, in North Carolina. He lives here in Mount area. Okay, if I see you guys together somewhere, I will introduce you to each other.
Okay.
So he will spend considerable amount of time. He he will filter down his 2,500 list down to 250 or 200. He will spend hours doing that. He will go to GIS, he will look at the map, he will look at the pictures, he will literally like almost like the right property before he puts it on the list. And I asked him why you do that. He said he's saving the time because whenever he hits that 200 list, he is getting like, I don't know, 10 out of them is a deal or something like that. But he gets that down from like 2,500, right? So he spends a lot of time doing homework, shrinking the list, but then when he hits that actual list, and he's doing, I think, direct mail, and because of the size, it doesn't cost you a fortune.
Yeah.
So he does all the homework, spending his brain power and time, shrinks the list, and then the cost of hitting that list is relatively low, time-wise and money-wise, and then he is getting his deals that way. So I wanted to just mention that because, obviously there are two ways, and I personally do both. Like you can throw the big net and try to catch any fish, but then the never underestimate the value of the smaller list. It's smaller, but it requires less effort on your part to actually get a deal because the chances are that seller will be more motivated than some totally random dude that you can just stop on the street and ask, are you selling your home, right? Just because the number is small is not a negative. Sometimes it's actually a big positive. So that's what I wanted to mention.
Yeah, that's a great gold nugget right there.
Yes. And then I guess with my basic understanding of what the products and the list that you have and the costs are, if anyone like myself wanted to actually get into the details or order the product, would you want them to contact you, call you, or is there a website where they can go and see everything and open, like this is the cost, this is how many leads you buy, this is the package, click, go?
Yeah, so it's pinpointskip.com. It's 12 cents a record, minimum of 1,000 records. And if you want to hop on a call with me, and I'll happily walk you through our process or give you any advice if you want me to just break down your business. You just hit the support button on the website or email us at info@pinpointskip.com, and then I'll shoot you a link to my Calendly and you can make an appointment. So I bend over backwards to make sure my clients are successful with their data because selfishly, the more successful they are, the more deals they get, the more data they're going to buy, and the more they're going to refer people to me. So I think like 90% of our business is referral based. So I don't, I try to just make it so like I'm a resource to my clients because I understand how hard this business is. And so if anybody wants to reach out to me, you don't have to buy data from me for me to want to help you out. I just want to see you win.
Absolutely, man. And that's how actually we got to know each other, right? I wasn't specifically looking for the data. I think we were at the meetup and you were there, and I was glad that I had met you. So just to sum it up, I think as an investor, I will say this: one of the most frustrating things that you will face if you are trying to acquire the property is the bad data, the phone number that is dead, or the person answers the phone and says, I'm not the guy you're looking for, property is sold.
Yep.
And it's a tremendous waste of time and money. Yes, you can probably buy a huge number of leads by subscribing to one of the lead source providers services, and some of them will include the free skip tracing, but you will have to figure out, does it work for you or not? And I don't know, for some people it does actually. I don't know, they put like 20 people on the team, they skip trace million numbers and call them 8 hours a day. And on the large volume, it does work. But if you are more like focused guy, or you want to target like certain specific areas and you want to be very efficient at what you do, the accuracy of the data is just invaluable. You cannot get around that. And what Faisal offers here is, he's a data analyst. First of all, he was not skip tracer by a professional, he was a data analyst. So he is allowing you to use his expertise and his knowledge of pulling the data and sorting the data to your advantage. And one of the top advantages is that you will be getting the fresh data from him. It's not going to be 12-month-old data. So when you call somebody, you think that they are, living in a certain type of property right now and under certain conditions. Chances are they currently do, unless their circumstances changed, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, whatever. But that's one thing. Another thing, that he's going to provide you with the tier 2 skip tracing, which will allow you to, there is no way you can just pick up the phone and speak to everybody you want. But I will say this, if you don't have well skip traced list, you can have your you will burn through the list. You can put in the batch dialer, you can open 5 lines, you can go to Enzo, open, I don't know, 10 lines, 15 lines, and you can burn through all those numbers pretty quickly. But if your response rate is what, 2%, 4%, or 0.5%, how many conversations you want to have? You're going to burn through your list, but you will have nobody. And you have to have 25 conversations to have one warm lead. So with that, I think I will say that I'm not selling your product. I'm not getting any affiliate bonuses or anything of that sort. I'm just strictly speaking from investor standpoint. So I think, given all that I have been through in order to get the leads that I want, I would strongly recommend people to just look at it, look at it and see, and maybe try it. If you want, you do the split test. Buy 1,000 leads from here and buy 1,000 leads from the other source. Put your cold callers on both and see the results. Nothing will be more accurate than the KPI. And if it works, it might actually save you a ton of money, because you might figure out that you will be spending maybe $800 buying this list, but that will allow you to close a deal much faster and a lot more deals than another list that you will spend, I don't know, maybe $200, but then it will take you like a year to close a deal, whatever. So think about those, the numbers, the metrics. That's very important, not to get lost on immediate cost, but think about the long-term cost.
Solid advice.
I have to say that I really enjoy talking to you. Anytime I see you, I learn something about skip tracing, about the records, about the accuracy, about the necessity, and how to properly vet them and pursue them. And before we conclude this podcast today, is there anything that you wanted to say to sum up everything that you've said earlier?
No, I think one last thing I will offer to your listeners is, if people reach out to me, I can help them with their CRM. Like, I'll tell them what CRM to use, and then I can also refer them to a cold calling company that I've been using since February 21. I'm constantly testing new companies, so like if they want, I'll let them know what company is that I'm working with at the time and what's actually working. So like I said, I'm active in this business, and I just want to be a resource to other investors, because I know how hard it is, and there's been plenty of others before me that helped me out too. So gladly pass it along.
Thanks, man. And if you want to mention, you can mention the name of the calling company, or if you want, people can reach out to you directly. So I was speaking with Faisal Morsi of pinpointskip.com. Please feel free to reach out to him. Just have a conversation, find out what he's offering. And I think there is great value in accurate data. No one who has been doing the wholesaling, nobody who has been dialing the list and talking to sellers can underestimate the value of the accuracy of the data. Nothing beats that. With that, I want to say thank you very much, Faisal, for joining it today. I think we always get valuable information from you, and we're probably going to have other podcasts where we can touch in more detail different aspects of skip tracing and data gathering. But let me tell you, man, thank you very much. Thank you for being a help.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate your time. Thank you for for having me on. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they can find me on Instagram or Facebook. It's at Faisal Morsi.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you.
Take care.